myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you.
Morning all, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Welcome to John Gibson and Malcolm this Thursday morning. How are you, lads?
Good, thanks. Yes, morning everybody.
Good to see you. Good to see you, lads. And as always, plenty to talk about in the world of Newcastle United. And tickets running out, I would imagine, by now. But tickets for the cup final being secured. I'm seeing lots of people posting stuff on social media. Was never in doubt, Malcolm, or Gibbo, was it, that we're now going to have the full backing of 32,000 plus Newcastle United supporters down at Wembley, and they're going to make some noise, John.
I mean, we could have filled Wembley on our own. You could get 100,000 Geordies with people coming in from abroad and down south, and we could fill it on our own. We'll fill 50,000 into St James's every week, so we could have filled it on our own. And I mean, the greatest certainty, we've suggested it's about a 50-50 game on the park. The biggest certainty is that Newcastle will win the battle on the terraces ahead of the Man U brigade. There's no question about that in my mind. The biggest noise. I mean, the most wonderful atmosphere and the best display in football at the moment's war flags inspired St James's Park. So we'll win that battle. I just hope, because, you know, I sat there in, I think it was 74, Miles Cup final, and FA Cup final, and I watched Brendan Foster run around Wembley in a race. There was a race for pre-match, and he had a black and white striped vest on, and he won. I didn't realise that we weren't going to win after that, like, you know. So I want to win on the terraces this time and on the park. But yeah, it'll be a terrific day, and the Geordies will make the most of it because we know how to, because we haven't done it too often, and we're all determined that everybody's going to be there on the day Newcastle wins something. Well, let's hope it's this time.
Malcolm, it's going to be great to see all that sea of black and white down at Wembley again. 24 years, of course, since we last graced, the national stadium. And no matter where you watch the game, wherever you are in the world, you're going to feel an immense amount of pride. Whether you're an ex-player, whether you're a journalist, whether you're a fan of Newcastle, it's going to be great to see, Kieran Trippier and Eddie Howe, leading that team out of that tunnel, isn't it?
I think so. Yes, absolutely. And Tyneside thrives on cup finals, doesn't it? Yeah. But everybody just loves an occasion. And so
that's the wonderful thing about it, Malcolm. And when I used to talk to War Jackie, that's the thing he loved. He said, and it's a bit different today, but he said, you can win the league and you can win it on a wet Wednesday night at Stoke. Not these days, but then you could. But when you win the FA Cup, you win at Wembley with the whole country watching on a showpiece stadium and a showpiece atmosphere and occasion and everything. It's got more drama about it. And Newcastle in those days were always known as an FA Cup team. Because they won it 6 times and played in 7 finals. We were an FA Cup team. Where that's gone, I'm not quite so certain of recent times, but it's lovely to have made the League Cup final. Ironic, too, that it's 24 years or whatever it is since we were last at Wembley, but it's exactly the same match. Newcastle United v Manchester United, which was the 1999 game. A mismatch, actually. Then they completed the treble, and we completed 4 visits and 4 losses, but there we are. You just get the feeling it might be different this time.
Yeah, one certainly hope so, and I'm sure that what's going on in the Newcastle dressing room right now is that steady build up to the whole thing. It's going to be an absolute crescendo come the day, and I just hope that they get out on the pitch and really give a good showing.
Do themselves justice, Malcolm.
Yeah, those last two finals, they didn't. It just didn't happen, did it? It was a bit like the final that I remember back in '74.
Yeah, embarrassing, really, the 98 and 99, and we've got to get back. But in the meantime, and I keep stressing this, and I probably sound a boring old sugar with the needle stuck in the gramophone, but there's two massive games before Wembley. If we are going to be in the Champions League, there's two massive games before Wembley, and they've both got extra significance. The first one, Bournemouth, it's Eddie Howe going home, the most successful Bournemouth manager in their history, and their favourite son, going back home, not to mention Callum Wilson doing exactly the same thing. And then a week later, it's Liverpool up here, and we are for them one. The only game we've lost this season, controversially. So the two games, lads, are very important because the 6 points can have a real impact on where we finish in the table, those 6 points. And they've got extra significance. You know, Eddie going back to Bournemouth, and then Liverpool up here with all we owe them after the last time. You know, let's hope when they come up, it's still the only league match we've lost this season, because that means we'll have got something at Bournemouth, and we didn't deserve to lose it. So they're two massive matches before we end up at Wembley. Yeah. And by the way, when we come out of Wembley, it's useful the next match, Man City away.
Yeah.
Man City.
Just on the Liverpool game, I will never ever forget the reason that they disallowed that second Isak goal against Liverpool, and it was by VAR, and the reason given afterwards was that Isak's shadow was offside, if you remember. Yeah. They said that the shadow was further than the defenders.
Cliff Richard was always offside because the shadows were behind him.
Yeah, it was absolutely appalling and balmy. And yeah, so we owe Liverpool one. So you're absolutely right. These are important games. Eddie Howe will really be up for it this coming Saturday, that's for sure.
Also, guys, what it does, I mean, if we manage to win both, and Bournemouth are second bottom, and Liverpool are in disarray, if we win them both, we all go to Wembley in a great frame of mind, don't we?
Yes.
If we don't win either, you know, a couple of draws, you go in a different frame of mind. So not only is it important for the Champions League, but it's important for the mood it sets prior to Wembley.
Gibbo, that comment on the screen there from Barry. I mean, this show has been, you know, overtaken on more than one occasion this week by the topic of tickets and the way that they're distributed. The club chose to go down the route of speaking to the supporters trust about allocation of tickets and you know how fans should obtain them. It's, you know, you're never going to please everybody. You know, I think the problem that you have with what, you know, and I've mentioned this a few times, the way that they've done it is the supporters trust suggestion would say that Carabao Cup, people who went to the Carabao Cup have gained a little bit of priority in this queue. However, what it means is that, for example, somebody who has been a season ticket holder for 40 years doesn't go to away games, so doesn't have the loyalty points, and hasn't gone to the cup games, let's say because of work, but you know, they basically have ended up behind somebody in the queue who has bought a season ticket last year and has been to 4 Carabao Cup games this year. So it is causing a little bit of animosity between people, and I think it's only going to get worse over the course of the next few days when eventually the tickets sell out. People are left with no tickets. We will see people selling tickets. I guarantee it. I've already seen one or two trying to sell tickets at a profit, which is disgusting. But you know, these things happen. You know, what's your thoughts, John? Because you've been involved with Newcastle for so many years. You've seen Newcastle at cup finals before. there's not really a solution to this. And I guess we've got to thank our lucky stars that this isn't the FA Cup final where we only get 25,000, or the Champions League final where we'll only get 15,000 if we were ever lucky enough to get to that. So
those figures are frightening, Steve. And yes, it's always a problem, because in an ideal world, you want on a cup final to reward the supporter that's been a supporter for 40 years or 20 years if he's younger or whatever, because they're the real supporters, the supporters that were there during the Ashley years with little encouragement and not just climbed on the bandwagon since things have gone spectacular under the new owners. But it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult to get a perfect. Well, there isn't a perfect answer, is there? Because there's 50,000 Newcastle fans when they play Bournemouth at home. There's 50,000 Newcastle fans there, and you could guarantee there's another 50,000 outside who are born Geordies who will suddenly become Newcastle fans because they want to be at an occasion. They're not too interested, but they want to say, I was there at Wembley when Newcastle won the cup. So you've got another 50,000 of those there. And in the old days, going way back, I mean, we remember it was quite openly done. The ticket touts sort of advertising that they were available with a fistful of tickets. There was a very famous one, so famous I've forgotten his name, but it's from about 30 years ago, who lived in Gateshead, who was well known as the king of the touts up in the northeast. And if you wanted tickets, you went there. Paid well over the odds, of course, but that's where you got tickets. It is a great shame, because what we will hear about is specific cases where somebody comes out once that door's closed and all the tickets have gone and tells the case, and he hasn't got a ticket. And the case will be terrific. He'll have been a fan for an eternity. He'll have supported Newcastle through thin and thinner. But yes, because he hasn't done the Carabao Cup, or because he hasn't just jumped on the bandwagon and travelled away as well as home, now things are good. It's all going to count for naught. And it is the uncomfortable side of a cup final, isn't it? It's like you get all the fans of a pop star, and the minute there's a huge concert in town, you've got all the porn sandwich brigade skimming all the tickets, and the real fan is either in the gods or is not in the place at all. It is awful, and I hate it, because you want your loyal fans to be the one to win, but it's so difficult for a club. How do they sort it out? How do they set some rules that are fair to everybody? Because some rules won't be fair to certain people. There's no question about that. Very, very difficult. Better their problem than my problem. But we're going to read about some very loyal, devoted fans who supported Newcastle when they were in the Championship under Ashley. They can't get near to Wembley, which is a great shame. But what do? As I say, starting all over again, we could fill the 100,000. We would need the 100,000 of Wembley to get everybody in that wants to go there. And probably there'll be a couple of thousand left over, but, so that everybody got tickets. And we really could fill it. But,
sure.
There you go.
It's not just this cup final, though. It happens at every cup final.
Oh, absolutely, Malcolm. There's no answer to this. Yeah. And it will continue to be so. Because you get two sets of fans, not talking about our club, just generally in cup finals, FA Cup final this year, etc. You get the fans who are the loyal and wonderful fans that have been there through thin and thinner. And then you get the people born in that particular city who aren't really fans, don't care too much about football, but they're willing to buy their way in for a big game. Because they want to say, I was there socially and talking to their pals. But their tickets have got to come from somewhere. And if they skim some of the tickets off the top, then somebody further down is going to suffer. Awful.
Yeah. Corporate tickets need to be reduced, I think, for all finals. Unfortunately, it's all about money. That's never going to happen. We're always going to be in this situation. And look, we've spoken a lot about it on the show, so I won't drag that on. And I can see Paul Watson saying, please don't go down this route again, because I've spoken about it a lot. But we will do until the tickets sell out. Paul, I guess, and then we'll move on. I don't think the Amigos tomorrow will be talking about that. I think we'll be addressing the Super League again. We'll come to the suggestions by Roger and Ian for the game of the weekend in the second half of the show. I do know that other people don't like us talking about ASM, but we do have to mention it, John. The Chronicle carried a big article, a big interview with ASM this week about his commitment to the club, about his commitment to the cause, about how disappointed it can be sitting on a bench, etc. It was a very me article, the way I read it. I was surprised to see it. I'll be interested to know what the club thought about it. And of course the rumours of AC Milan haven't gone away. Clearly there was some truth in those rumours. There is, as they say, no smoke without fire. But I mean, John, you probably had time to read it now. What was your thoughts on ASM's frank and honest interview?
Well, look, the whole thing, by the way, when you turn the question over to Malcolm, I'm going and having bacon, eggs and toast for my breakfast. ASM will take 25 minutes when Mal gets stuck into them. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing, I mean, it's very debatable. And it's only debatable because he's got so much natural talent, which is why people love him. And those that don't love him, there's so much his game's limited in terms of tracking back, in terms of goals and assists, in terms of input. But putting all that to one side, because he's one of those players that will always split opinion in the way that Hatton Ben Arthur did, in the way that Robert, the French winger, and then Ginola, another French winger. Actually, there's a lot of French guys coming into this, isn't there? But a huge talent that it didn't actually fulfill that talent. And there's a lot of that. But parking that to one side, Steve, when I look at him, he's a different player to me now than he has been. His body language is not bubbly. When I watched him against Manchester City, and that's only this season, he was, before he started, he was like a pony galloping around the field, and he was, Kyle Walker, not a problem, let me hear Kyle Walker, and he murdered him. And he looked bubbly, and you thought, he's, with mood players, you sometimes look at them when they run out the tunnel, and you think he's in the mood today, or he's not in the mood today. And this guy seems to, I mean, he never stopped smiling like Miggy. I very rarely see him smile now. I think he's got the cares of the world on his shoulder. It can be because he's not the number one man that he was in Steve Bruce's day. It's more likely to be because he isn't starting and he's been tapped by clubs that saying, you're far too good to be sitting on Newcastle United bench, come and join us and we'll build a side around you. And I know of at least one case where that has definitely happened. And it's not Milan, so I think it's happened with Milan, etc. as well. And I will be staggered on the opening day of next season if Maxi is still a Newcastle United player. Now, there'll be loads of people listening to this that'll say straight away, drop him, he's absolutely, he's not a team man here. And there'll be other people that remember the wonderful days that say you've got to play him. It's interesting. And then again, if you are a Miggy fan, you would say he shouldn't be dropped this weekend because he's only had one start in about 4 months and you can't drop him after one start. I look at it the other way and I look at him and say I was never so disappointed as his performance against West Ham. I wouldn't say he didn't look interested because that's unfair, but he didn't look up for it. He wasn't biting at the bullet to say, I'm going to show you that what you've been missing and why I should have been in the team. For goodness sake, if he got the winner against West Ham and followed it up with good games against Bournemouth and against Liverpool, he could make a case for playing in the final. He's blown that chance to do that, in my humble opinion. And if I was the ruthless manager, bearing in mind that Joe Linton's not going to play left side, he probably will at Wembley because Bruno will be back in the midfield and he'll play wide left. But he can't do that against Bournemouth. I would play Gordon because I thought he was a breath of fresh air when he come on. Yeah. I thought he had good feet. He's got a quick brain. He hasn't been bought to sit on the subs bench for the rest of his life. He can't play in the cup final, but as I've already said, these two matches are as important as the cup final. So I would play Gordon for Saint-Maximin on Saturday. I've been disappointed in Saint-Maximin. I think his mind's somewhere else and his body's here.
I've got to be honest. Malcolm, me and you have spoken about it. I know, I know your views on ASM. I'm not sure if you've had time to read the interview, but it was quite open. It was quite honest. It was quite frank. I think it's probably the benefit of it going out in the paper in the Chronicle this week was that we all have an idea of now exactly what's going through his mind, because I think a lot of us sit there going, come on, son, we know what you can do. It's so frustrating if you don't do it, but I guess we'll get an idea of where he's at now. And we've seen this many times before. Players come and go, Malcolm.
Yeah, except with ASM, I think his mind is on go. And that's a question of him leaving. I have the feeling that he is playing like a tapped up guy. He's been tapped by somebody. He knows that he could well be on his way come the summer. And against West Ham, I didn't get the impression that he really wanted to go and play a game of football. And I come down to the simplistic facts of what makes football and footballers. And in his position, how many crosses did he get in? How many shots did he have? 0 to both. He didn't get a cross in. So what's the point of giving him the ball if he's not actually creating anything with it? You see midfielders getting forward, the likes of Joe Willock, and he will constantly keep getting on the end of things. Sean Longstaff getting on the end of things, but with Saint-Maximin, he gets the ball and he wants to beat player after player after player. But then what I noticed was that he wasn't taking players on. Last Saturday, he was just simply passing it, and even then it wasn't very accurate. And I thought, well, all of a sudden his game's changed. Why? Why has his game changed after what? And he's been here nearly 3 years, hasn't he? Or is it more than 3? I always go back to Alex Stock at Luton Town, and he used to gauge everybody on what they put into a game, and so he used to tell us about the importance of getting shots in on the opposition's goal, and the more shots you get, the more nervous the opposition defence is, the more nervous the goalkeeper is, because it's just coming as a constant salvo on them. And Saint-Maximin, he doesn't join in when this is happening. He wants to go and do his own thing. And so when I look at him, I see a circus act. I don't see a footballer, a team member. You can have, have individuals go out there, but in the end, what they're looking to do are things that do well for the team. Saint-Maximin, I'll ask you a question, guys. Tell me the last time you saw Saint-Maximin do something positive that was for the best of the team.
Well, it's easy to pick it out. The last goal he scored against Wolves.
The game after Man City.
Yeah.
After the Man City
it's
was
ages ago.
You're talking the start of the season, Martin.
Yeah, that is ages ago. And you don't remember anything from there on.
I mean, I genuinely couldn't.
How bad he's been.
Yeah, and this isn't, I know people go, oh, well, you're having to go to ASM again. But, I think you and I discussed this after the game, Mal. 15 minutes Anthony Gordon had, 15 touches. He was like a live wire when he came on, wasn't he?
Mm.
Yeah. I mean,
that's why I say, Steve, that I would start him at Bournemouth. It doesn't matter that he can't play in the cup final because Bruno will be back and therefore Joe Linton will play wide left at Wembley, so that problem's solved. Yeah. But these 6 points in the meantime are absolutely crucial. Now I think Gordon will help us to get as many as we can of those 6, where Saint-Maximin mightn't have the same input. Here's another one to get off Maxi, because our thoughts, I think, are well known there. What would you do? This is just at Bournemouth. I would be tempted to rest Almiron and put Isaac out there. He's not going to rest Callum Wilson, who's just scored and ended his drought and is also going back to his previous club, Bournemouth. He's going to start as certain as eggs are eggs. He's going to start. So you've got Isaac and Gordon at this moment, as we speak, sitting outside of the team that played against West Ham, the starting 11. Mm. This is £100 million worth of talent. We paid £100 million to get Isaac and Gordon. 60 for Isaac, 40 for Gordon. We paid £100 million. We're not scoring goals. We're looking a bit leggy. And we've got £100 million in attacking talent sitting there I would give them both a chance. By the way, I don't think that Eddie will. Eddie doesn't like to make changes. And I don't think Eddie will start both of them at Bournemouth, but I would.
There's another one. Willock out for Anderson's worth a shout as well. Willock's not been on it for the last 4 games.
That will be considered by fans as well, without a shadow of doubt. But can you think, Steve, that, the way we've gone on about Eddie Howe, can you see him making 3 changes to a team that hasn't lost? That is something he just never, ever does. And he will say they haven't lost. I mean, there's 2 ways of looking at it. One is that Eddie is very loyal, and that's terrific, and that gets loyalty back to Eddie from the players, etc., etc. That's terrific. The other side of it is that if you play the same team week after week after week after week after week, and we do, the only change we made last week was because Bruno wasn't there, so I had to bring somebody in. But we play the same team. Now, if we are leggy, it is a mental tiredness. You're not a physical tiredness. All we've played is the League Cup and the Premier League all season, plus 1 FA Cup match. You're not physically tired.
The classic example is Almiron at the moment, isn't it?
Sorry?
The classic example of what you're saying, John, is Almiron at the moment.
Yes, for me, that's why I would take him out if this match on Saturday, because he probably runs twice as far as anybody else in the team. Yeah. I mean, I know the stats tell you it's Longstaff. I'm just being flip about the fact that he's like the Duracell bunny. He's here, there, and everywhere. But he's not looking like scoring goals at the moment. You've got Isaac, who does look like he could score goals if he was given the opportunity. And I think that these points are, if you were mid-table and you were just building up for Wembley, you might go with your Wembley team. But you're not. You're needing points. And we are, I think, mentally tired, not physically tired, mentally tired. And I looked it up, and it's a reason. There is 7 blokes at Newcastle United who have turned out in every single game we have played in the Premier League this season. Now, it's not meaning starting, because one of those 7's Jacob Murphy. which might surprise some people that he's got on every game and started a few. But players who have taken part in every single game in the Premier League this season, 7. That's a whopping number, and includes Longstaff and Willock and people like that. 3 have actually played in all 28 games we've played this season, every Carabao Cup and the 1 FA Cup and the 21 league games. So we haven't changed the team. And you know, how long, Malcolm, are you going to sit with Isak and Gordon sitting outside there?
Well, to be honest, I will play them this coming Saturday against Bournemouth.
Yeah, so would I, Mal.
Because there's nothing coming from wide at the moment. Until Gordon came on, then things started to happen.
Yes.
Against West Ham. And so, I will play Gordon one side of Wilson and Isak on the other. And
without a shadow of doubt,
I'll tell you what will come in. I'll tell you what will come in. Sorry to interrupt, John. I'll tell you what will come into play because it is the fact that Joe Linton is 2 bookings away from a suspension.
I know.
And they can't afford to lose him for the final. So I think Joe Linton could be rested against Bournemouth.
Yeah. Would the final count if you're booked in the league?
It will, yes. It goes across all 3 domestics.
Well, yeah, and you can't imagine Joe Linton. By the way, as far as the 2 matches concerned, you've got to reach the 32 league games before the 2-match suspension for 10 bookings is off. We've played 21. Can you imagine Joe not getting booked in the next 11 games? And by the way, there's not a cat in the hot place chance of that happening. And also, though, doesn't it make, because he now puts the boot in, he's now physical, which is quite amazing when you consider what a timid centre forward he is, but he's now very, very aggressive.
Yeah, he had a phenomenal record.
It made that booking on Saturday against West Ham all the more stupid, because it wasn't for breaking up an attack on us or something. It was for diving in the penalty area, and it was so blatant. I mean, Tom Daly's never dived as well as that. It was so blatant. It was untrue. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's a lot of debate. Coming in. If Isak and Gordon start against Bournemouth, I doubt they'll be dropped the week after as they look on fire when they come on. For me, Little FB says, sick of hearing ASM needs time to get fit and needs playing time. We've had an unchanged team for weeks with subs coming on and hitting the ground running and have had no more pitch time than ASM. And I don't buy the argument with tiredness, John and Malcolm. These are fit young men in the prime of their lives. What about the other teams who have Europe and Cups to play? Alan's talking, of course, about the fact that many people said that the team looked a bit jaded against West Ham.
I'm stressing when I make this argument, I want to stress, I'm not talking about physical tiredness. For goodness sake, the bloke sitting there up there with us two played FA Cup, League Cup, Czechoslovakia Cup, 42 league matches in the season, every game. I'm not talking.
And did superstars.
I'm not talking about physical tiredness, though. I don't think that they are physically tired. I think they're mentally tired. In a lot of the games up here, and why are they mentally tired? Because they're not used to fighting. Trippier apart, who did it with La Liga when he won the title with Atletico Madrid. They're not used with fighting at the top end of the table. All the team on you, and that's physical pressure every week. And why is it physical pressure? Because every team at the top wins, or at least draws. So you win, everybody else has won. But if you don't win, aren't we a classic example with 4 or 5 draws? We were third clear. We're now worried about Spurs, 5th, jumping into our place and us going 5th, which is out of the Champions League. And it's because of the mental. And by the way, you might say, well, if you're bottom of the league, there's mental pressure there. But the point I've just made, if you're bottom of the league and you lose, the odds are the teams around you are going to lose as well, because you're all hopeless. So you all lose all the time. So there's not the pressure. But if you if you draw it, that we've lost one game all season, but we're not top of the league, are we?
No.
We're top of the league for least defeats, but we're not top of the league because we draw a lot. The pressure is on you to win. And I think it gets to some players only by about this time of the year. When you're into the new year, you're into cup finals, you're into the run-in, you've got to stay fourth because the difference between fourth and fifth is enormous. And I think the pressure, not spreading the load, gets to one or two. If you're mentally strong, it doesn't. I don't think it bothers Trippier too much, etc., but it bothers some.
Yeah. And all that you talk of, John, there's a number of necessities in all of that. One of them is to score goals, and that can be a very tiring pressure on some players. Wilson, it doesn't tire Wilson in any way, but it mentally tires, I think, Almiron.
And as you've said, Malcolm, as you've said many times to me, sitting in the press box and on this podcast, what it also does when we don't score goals, we might have the best defence in the Premier League, but the pressure on them 4 guys and the goalkeeper, one mistake can cost you either 3 points or 2 points.
Sure.
Because a win becomes a draw. We were winning 1-0. We started the game against West Ham, and in the first 5 minutes, we scored twice. Now, the first one was ruled out, and rightly so, because the ball was over the line before Almiron crossed, although what good feet by Willock to drag it and finish. And then we went straight down again, and Wilson scored from a great ball from Longstaff. So, but after a start like that, the rest of the game, we still missed a load of chances. Wilson missed a hat-trick. He scored a great goal. It was put through, if you remember, guys, at the Leazer's end, with a great ball from Gordon, and he got swallowed by the defender coming across, so got out for a corner. Then he had a header chance where he put it straight, free header, he put straight at the keeper. If it had gone to either side of the keeper, it was a goal. Now, when we are under the pressure of just having a 1-goal lead, they get a corner and we do badly on it. We've got our 2 biggest players in the centre of the box. The ball flies over Joe Linton, and for some reason Dan Burn ducked under it. It continues to the back post where Bruno's made to stand on his own. His first touch is like a camel's touch, and yet there was nobody picking him up to close it down, and he gets a second touch which he tucks away. One mistake and we've lost 2 points. So the pressure gets to the back people as well. We might be the tightest in the league, but you know, and we've had 3-0 draws. They've kept clean sheets at the back, but we haven't scored the goals to turn to a win. So there's a lot of pressure, which is mental, not physical.
Sure. What I think I've noticed with the Newcastle side is that they don't like scoring early goals. And 1-0 up against West Ham, Newcastle looked uncomfortable. They didn't make the most of it. They didn't look as if they were busting a gut to make it 2-0, which is what they should be doing. And they had this tendency earlier in the season to score more goals in the second half, and they played much better. And it's sitting on that 1-goal lead. And what I feel that they should be doing, what they should be thinking is, when you get 1-0 up, go for 2-0, go for broke on it, and don't be cautious in any way. You know, don't try and hang on to 1-0. Look to go and make it 2-0. Put the pressure on the opposition down there, and that will relieve all that pressure that is on the back four all the while. But we just don't seem to have that confidence to go for broke and make it 2-0.
Yeah. Okay. Got slightly sidetracked there. Missed the ads, but we'll play them now so the lads can have a break. Thanks as always to our sponsors, Skips and Bins. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at mrvickies.co.uk, email info@mrvickies.co.uk, or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to Blowhole Brewery. You can find them at blowholebrewery.co.uk. Beers brewed on the River Tyne. And thanks to United Group Travel Limited, UK Coach Holidays, based in Morpeth. Telephone 01670 362 460 and mobile 07957 141 654. Graham, your driver, Beverly answering your calls, looking after you on your tour. Thanks also to 3 Property, who specialise in sourcing investment properties for their clients who are looking to invest in the North East. They offer a full in-house service from sourcing the deals to managing the properties for you. They've done over 100 plus deals in the past 12 months for clients all over the UK. Give the guys a follow on Instagram, matty.patter_northeast property and phil.reed_northeast property, or email phil@3property.co.uk if you're interested in getting a good property deal. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wales and Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, nufcmatters.com. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the videos and the technology side of things. If you want to subscribe to the channel, hit the subscribe button underneath the video today. Hit the thumb up to like the channel and click share to your social media. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and the rest. If you want to become a member, you pay a £25 one-off fee, and you can go to the website, nufcmatters.com, and find membership pack, or put your smartphone over the QR code and it will take you straight there. If you subscribe, we do give you a free car sticker. All you need to do is email john@nufcmatters.com and he'll post you one out. We also support the food bank on this channel, nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. You'll find the match day bucket where you can make a virtual donation. We've also got some events coming up over the next couple of months. First off, we've got an evening with Steve Howie at the Tyneside Irish Centre, Friday the 24th of February. Tickets are available from our website, nufcmatters.com, and they are priced £15, not $50, as you can see on the poster. An evening with Nobby Solano is also at the Tyneside Irish Centre, Saturday the 25th of March. Tickets are £15. Book now at nufcmatters.com. And an evening with Frank Clark and John Gibson, Thursday the 20th of April, again at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £15 and you book now at nufcmatters.com. Supermac and John Gibson will also be at Felling Cricket Club on the 16th of February. To buy tickets for that, contact the venue direct. We've got a whole host of t-shirts available from our website, nufcmatters.com. Gives you plenty of ideas for presents, for birthdays, anniversaries, you name it. Get your Anthony Gordon t-shirts and your Wembley t-shirts today. Just laughing, Ken Dixon's just sent us a clip from a newspaper many years ago. 15-0. Felling cemented their place at the top of the Gateshead District League 2nd Division with a 15-0 thrashing of brave Washington outfit Wessington. Felling have hit over 100 goals this season and hit 8 goals past Wessington in their home fixture. The highlight of the game was a spectacular strike by player-manager Steve Wraith. The league's top scorer, Chris Little, notched 5, was ably supported by Raymond Oshin, who chipped in with a perfect hat-trick. Brilliant stuff. Thanks for sending us that, Ken.
Are you available for Bournemouth, Steve? Because we will rest Callum Wilson because we need the goals.
I think the point that Ken was trying to make was, well, we all know who used to write the pre-match, the post-match reports for the Chronicle in the Gateshead District League. Yes, it was me. It was with me mind on that game. Now it was a very good goal, that Ken, and it was definitely the pick of the bunch. So there's no lies being told on this show. Believe you me. Newcastle United, of course, away to Bournemouth. We've already touched on it today. Newcastle are in Premier League action, 5:30 kickoff at the Vitality Stadium, the Eddie Howe Derby. It's live on Sky Sports. 1,300 away tickets allocation is sold out. Newcastle, of course, unbeaten in the last 7 Premier League games on the road, which matches the longest run in the Premier League, which was 2003, 2004. That sequence of 7 games actually were all draws. The longest unbeaten away league sequence remains 10 games. That was during the 1907-1908 First Division season. None of us were there. While the 2009-2010 Championship season included a run of 9 without defeat away from St James's Park. This is going to be the third meeting of the teams this season, following a 1-1 draw at St James's Park in the Premier League and a 1-0 victory on Tyneside in the League Cup. Bruno is suspended still, serving the second game of his 3-match ban. Alexander Isak will be back. He has returned to training after missing the West Ham game, having had to comply with the concussion protocols. Matt Targett is back training on grass. We will no doubt get an update from Eddie Howe on his progress in the press conference this week. Javier Manquillo does remain unavailable. The referee is Stuart Atwell. This is his 3rd game looking after Newcastle United this season. The others were our Premier League and League Cup victories at Southampton. He must have a caravan on the south coast, NUFC.com suggesting. VAR is Tony Harrington. And don't forget, there is engineering works between York and Newcastle this weekend. That sees a rail replacement and bus services operate in serving immediate stations on Saturday and Sunday. And there's a reduced LNER service. It'll still run direct from Newcastle to King's Cross on both days, but via the Durham Coast route, adding to journey times. Lumo services will run between King's Cross and Northallerton, while cross-country and trans-Pennine services will be replaced by buses between York and Newcastle on both days. So that's all the details, courtesy of NUFC.com. John, we've talked in depth, really, about what we would potentially do this weekend. But I think we all agree as well, John, that Eddie Howe doesn't make mass changes, does he?
Oh, I could. Really, I'm expecting it to be unchanged because
Me
that's
too.
what Eddie Howe does, especially when you haven't lost. So it could well be unchanged. He's certainly not going to change 3 voluntarily without injuries. That would be a nosebleed time. And it's very difficult to complain about anything Eddie's done this season with 1 defeat in 21 games. And they're currently 4th top of the table. I mean, Bournemouth's intriguing. I mean, he's going to want to win desperately at Bournemouth. He's going to put out the side to try to win because it's at Bournemouth. And contrast with the managers, the funny thing is with Gary O'Neill, since they appointed him permanently, he's not won a single game. As a caretaker, he was pulling in points left, right, and centre. It's often this, of course, isn't it? But as the permanent manager, he's never won a game, and there's sections of the crowd that want him sacked, as there would be. And there's been open discussions in the local press about whether he should be sacked or not. So, but of course, there's been a change of owners as well, which means that often new owners can't be trigger happy about getting their own man in, etc. Bournemouth make us uncomfortable. You know, they're a bit like Palace. You read out there, Steve, that, you know, we had a 1-1 with them in the league up here, and we only beat them 1-0 in the League Cup. And that, if you remember, was an own goal by their skipper, headed back across the goal and into his own net. And we didn't look like scoring that day. Now, we've played Palace 3 times this season, and there were 3 0-0 draws. These sides where you expect Newcastle might be able to blow them away, Palace and Bournemouth, are proving a bit more difficult. And because this is away, and because Bournemouth are so desperate for points, and they have played a bit better recently without getting the result they wanted. I mean, Brighton at home, a very, very good home side, a very good side, full point. Took to the 87th minute to get the goal that beat them 1-0 last week. I think Newcastle will not lose, absolutely no question. This continued run of away games without a defeat, I think, will continue in this game. But it's like every other one we've had. I'm just biting my nails until we score. By the way, we scored in 5 minutes last week, and it still ended up as a draw. As Malcolm said, the whole getting early goals doesn't seem to guarantee Newcastle pretty much. But yes, I mean, my only concern down there between whether it's going to be a draw or victory is whether we're going to score the goals, because that is our problem at the moment.
Yeah, Mal, it's unlikely he's going to change. I think John's right. You know what I mean? He doesn't like to change a winning team or a team that doesn't get beat.
Yeah, yes, but how frustrating it is when you got Almiron on one side, Saint-Maximin on the other, and you got nothing coming into the box. There's no supply coming from either of those two. Probably slightly more from Almiron, but you've got nothing coming in from Saint-Maximin. And Wilson needs the ball putting into the box. That he lives off of that. And so what I noticed, that there was one time in the last match, Wilson, he had made a few runs, near post, far post, and what have you, and time and again, Saint-Maximin, he didn't cross the ball, and then all of a sudden, one time Wilson didn't make a run, and Saint-Maximin did cross it, and it's so frustrating. Is that that it's that lack of consistency from Saint-Maximin, and in the end, and I used to, when I was playing, I used to suffer that in the same way, and it really is frustrating. You keep making those runs in, and a winger doesn't cross it, and in the end you think, there's no point in me making that run. Next thing, a cross comes over, and you haven't made the run, and you look a right dickhead as well for not making it. But when you're attacking, what you need to find is consistency in your shooting, but consistency in your crossing as well. And personally, I would leave both Almiron out, getting very little off him. I'd leave ASM out, and I will play Isaac on the right and Gordon on the left, and just let them go. And I think Wilson would have a field day. I really do.
Okay, what's your prediction for the weekend, John?
I'm predicting a narrow win. Every time I say that, we draw. So I was tempted to forecast a draw in the hope that would mean we would win. But if I'm being honest with myself, win by a single goal, whether that's 1-0 or 2-1. But I'm taking a narrow win.
Malcolm?
I've been so frustrated with those two earlier games against Bournemouth. That Newcastle really didn't get going, but the fact is that this is now away from home, and I think we'll see something different. I'm going to take Newcastle to win, and I just hope that there is that little bit of a revolution up front, and I'm going to take 2-0.
2-0.
Okay. Steve, what about you, my friend? What about you?
I'm pretty sure we're going to get a draw, lads. I don't think we're going to win. I think, again, Bournemouth are a tough team to beat. I know they're on a bit of a crest of a slump, though, with, as you say, since the manager was appointed. So that could be in our favour. I don't think we'll get beat. It could be a boring 0-0. It could be a boring 0-0. And that takes us into that Liverpool game, still unbeaten, which is important. But it's going to be tight, lads. I wouldn't be surprised if we do sneak it 1-0. But yeah, I also feel like Newcastle are going to beat somebody big style before the end of the season as well. It'll come.
Could that be Manchester United at Wembley, please?
You never know. Lads, as always, absolute pleasure. Looking forward to being on air with you again next week, and plenty coming up. Keep an eye out for the events. John and Malcolm are going to be out and about over the course of the next few months, so make sure you get your tickets at NUFCmatters.com. But for now, thanks, Malcolm. Thanks, John. Take care.
Take care, boys.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Enjoy.